Hello and Happy New Year! I'm Gale Thompson from the Darby Creek Diaries, and I am so glad you stopped by. We're celebrating Monica Taylor's 7,000 subscribers. We appreciate everyone, and this is the project I'm going to do, and then we'll get into the hot details later. The theme is celebration, so I'm going to do a birthday card, which we can always use, and one that's not. And this is the Birthday Basics from Concord 9ths. It's a Turnabout stamp set. You can do it 1, 2, 3, or 4 times to get multiple colors all on one flat card. And it has a template now, which they didn't used to have. It's really cool. It helps with lining up. If you have the old style, I can tell you how to do that too in another video. And now there's a turnabout jig, so you don't have to make your own. And if you have previous ones, there are templates now available for $4 for the whole pack. If you don't have a turnabout or you're not interested, I'm going to share tips about card making in general. First is this sticky grid. I love my sticky grid. I think those magnets get in the way, and it's usable, reusable. Now on this turntable, there's 1, 2, 3, and 4, and you're going to start at number 1. See the perforated X? That's going to be important. And now the template has this side up so you can't mess up, and now you're going to align the X's so that you'll have it perfectly aligned, and then you will put your stamp, the stamp side down, and line it up. Shut the door, pick up the stamp, and pull the template off, and you're good to go. Now those little marks I'm pointing at, that's so you can line up your paper. They've got it in all 4 corners for an A2 size card, and then also for a bigger one. Now you want to put some repositionable tape down on top of that jig and place your cardstock in those brackets. I think I'm going to do the Tim Holtz trick and put some black paint there. Now I'm seasoning my stamp because I hadn't used this yet, kind of roughing it up, getting off the oils, and I'm getting out some masking magic. I die cut a little rectangle that would fit my sentiment and that hooray, and I'm just going to place it on the card. I could always plop something on, but I thought it'd be fun to just make this one layer. So there is my mask, and it's going to look a little messy, but we're good. So we're going to start with number 1, our first color. Now I'm going to double stamp all of these, but I'll spare you having to look at that. I have a little dip in my table, and I need to do that a lot. So there is our first layer, and I'm just taking a dry rag and wiping off the stamp really good. And now we're going to use turntable to number 2. We're going to move it, and you're going to do it clockwise. And I just want to make sure I'm poking on it to make sure it gets that repositionable tape caught under it. And I'm going with my second color. And the colors will be listed below in the description along with all the supplies. Now I'm wiping her off, turning it, and now we're on side number 3. And it looks a little kind of messy on the door, but it doesn't transfer to the paper miraculously. Catherine Puller inks tend to be pretty juicy. Wiping it off again in between each one, and we have one more turn to make. And you have to be careful sticking your finger on that mask because you'll wind up smearing it and probably getting it on the card. That's typically what I do. And now for the last color. This is from My Favorite Things. I think it's discontinued, but I'll find another color that will work for you. So I am double stamping this because it's pretty dry. It's an older set. And I see a little spot that I just needed to press on again. And it's time for the reveal. That's my favorite part. Be careful because, like I said, you don't want to smear it. And there we go. Isn't that fun? Now the next card that we are going to do, I'm going to do on craft. And we're going to do it using white pigment ink first. And there's a reason the color changes a bit when you put dye ink on craft paper. with the white pigment underneath. That green is that bright green on the right. Otherwise, it'll darken or even soak into the craft paper depending on what color you use. I'm not going to go through the whole drill on this because we've already done it. We're just going to ink it up, and I do double stamp this as well every time. And we're going to just do the procedure like the first one. Now, with the hop, don't forget to go to everyone stops and make a comment, like, and if you want to, subscribe. It's appreciated, and you will be entered in for a drawing for some wonderful gift certificates from the sponsors that I have toward the end of the video. And once again, congratulations, Monica. Now I've finished up. I've done all 4 turntables in white, so I'm going to start all over again with the color ones, and I will just be wiping it off and flipping pretty quick. It just kind of makes the color pop off the page when you use that white pigment ink. So through the magic of television, it's all complete, and that turntable is washable. Now we're going to go back to our first card. We're going to go ahead and stamp the sentiment. I'm not completely trusting that that stamp is clean, so I put down that plastic that's from Simon Says stamp, that grid, and it's really very helpful. You can line things up, and I still used my Misty ruler as well. Then you just pick up the stamp, use the powder. I'm using Altenew Obsidian Black ink. I think it stamps really well the first time. I'm going to use some new sparkly glitter embossing powder. It's Ultra Shimmer Embossing Glitter by Wow. And we're just going to heat that up. I tried using black embossing powder. Typically I will stamp in black and use clear so that you don't see any evidence. But this turned out really pretty, and it was the first time I'd used it. And to give it a little something something, I went ahead and punched all 4 corners. And I'm looking at how I'm going to layer things up, giving it a little look-see, and that's what the corner punch looks like. I decided there needed to be something else there, so I die cut a cupcake. It's called Storybook Cupcake from Simon Says Stamp, and I put a little bit of Nuo Shimmer pen on it, and I put a piece of black cardstock, shiny cardstock, behind the eyes so that they would be black and not just holes. And I used a little bit of Copic too to kind of give a little depth to the color. And now for the frosting. I couldn't decide hardly what to use on this, but I didn't want to mess up his, face. You need to be able to see his face. So I just used diamond dust. It's clear and worked pretty well, and I just smooshed it down there on the glue and let it dry. I have some Lawn Fawn baker's twine I wrapped around the top there. I felt that it just needed something else. Sometimes I don't know when to quit, and sometimes I quit too early. So I'm just trimming that off, and we're going to make a bow. I don't make bows very well as all in one piece. I find it easier to just make the bows separately. Sometimes I'll make them separately and even glue them on, but this was just as easy to tie on. So we got a little bit of something, and I put the glue there to just stabilize it, and it is taped on the back as well. And now we're going to put our cupcake on, and he's cute. And he's 3 thicknesses of cardstock, and the frosting part is 4. And that gave it some dimension, and I just used the colored cardstock because I didn't want to see the white on the edges underneath. Now I'm going to layer up the card. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. I did the corners on this mat as well. I always lay my cards open and go by the crease and eyeball it. I'm a big fan of eyeballing. I think if you know me, you know that. And now we're going to layer this up. But since there's that lump of twine, I went ahead and put some Heavy Doodle foam tape around the rest of that. That was my test thing. I just flipped it over and used the other side. You can always use two sides of paper. And now I'm layering it up. And there is card number 1. Now card number 2, I also had to use the flip side. I'm layering just one panel on this. I think the white kind of pops pretty well. Everything else made it look kind of dark, to me anyway. And then I have this hay from the stamp market that's a layering word die. And I went back and forth on what colors to use. And I finally settled on this. I think it looks pretty good. Craft is kind of a hard animal to work with. You don't want things to look drab, but you can't have them really too sparkly because I always think of craft as being kind of natural. So I'm laying things out and I'm going to glue this a little bit janky, a little bit wonky. It's easier to do something intentionally wonky than it is to try to do it straight. So I just sit her down there and the glue, this glue is awesome. It dries completely matte and clear. And I thought, you know, this really is still kind of drab. So let's add a little bit of shimmer pen to this. So I just added it directly to the cardstock. The black underneath is that gloss black stock that I'd used on the eyes for the cupcake. And I'm getting it around the corners. It temporarily does change the color of your cardstock, so you do want to keep that in mind. And then this is one of Simon Says Stamps little sentiment cards that they have that you can just cut up. And I got out my ruler to make sure that was straight. And there's card number 2. And it's very thin. It'd be easy to mail. And then there's card number 1 again with the shimmery little cupcake. I hope you enjoyed these projects. You'll come back and see me, like and subscribe, and join all the other stops on the hop. Here is the sponsor list. Don't forget to comment for chances to win. Come and see me at the other social media outlets. I'm going to leave some videos here for you to see. Until next time, you have a great week. Bye-bye.